Welcome to the Great Man Within podcast. Every episode is designed to help you discover and live the great man within you. Gentlemen, can we just take a moment to recognize how badass this past Monday's episode was with Eric Maddox, episode number 206, the interrogator who caught Saddam Hussein? Anytime you have a chance to sit down and unpack the story of someone who was one of the key influencers in helping to take down one of the greatest villains of our lifetime, it makes for a pretty damn good episode, right? Not only was the story captivating, but being able to highlight the practical application of some of the techniques that he used with the insurgents that he captured, was able to befriend, open up, and then influence to helping give those little clues that one by one ultimately culminated in the takedown of Saddam Hussein. Up until that point was completely elusive. And so using those skills that he taught us on how to listen has extraordinary application as leaders in business, or if you're influencing a sale, or if you're in a romantic relationship. It was phenomenal. And if you can't get enough of Eric like we can't, then I've got some good news for you, some exciting news for you. For the members of the Great Man Mastermind, the Digital Mastermind, we actually have secured Eric as our special guest of the month, our very first special guest. He's going to be taking an hour out of his time on Wednesday, February 17th from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern time, where he's going to be answering any questions about the episode or any questions about the story, any questions that you've got from one of the most interesting people that we've ever had on the show. You have to be a member of the Digital Mastermind. We are running a special, I'll put all the details in the show notes so you can take a look at that. If you're down for that, then you can not only join us in the mastermind, but you get to kickstart your experience with listening to Eric. And again, that's on Wednesday, February 17th. All right, so check the show notes. I'll remind you at the end of this episode again for that. Let's get to the topic at hand. What if I were to tell you that you are one limiting belief away from living the life that you desire? I want you to really let that in. I want you to feel the sting of that. I want you to feel the power of that. Let that marinate for a second. You are one limiting belief away from living the life that you desire. Let me share with you a story from my life that I know for this to be true. It was probably the fourth quarter of 2013. Okay, we were rewinding time. So let's just say September of 2013. That was my first year in 12-step sex addiction recovery program. That was the first year that I picked up meditation and started studying all different forms of spirituality. It was also when I was still in the corporate financial services world. I was 13 years at that point in time in my tenure in the financial services arena. And I never really thought that there was ever a possibility I would leave, right? And so on this particular day, I was doing a chanting meditation that I picked up months earlier from Nichiren Buddhism. And in Nichiren Buddhism, there's this chanting practice where you say a particular mantra over and over again. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. And when you chant that meditation, you put into your mind an intention. And then you chant that mantra with the force of galloping horses. So it sounds something like Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. It's pretty intense, right? And so you build up a lot of energy. And so for those past number of months, I started asking the question, setting the intention during that chanting, which I did every single day for at least 15 to 20 minutes. I want to know what my next move is. I want to know what my next move is. Meaning, at that point in time, I'd recognized that I was starting to feel like I was bumping up against a ceiling in the financial services world. I was elevated decent level inside the organization. I had opportunities to go up into other roles I was being considered for. But when I looked up in the organization, I didn't want any of the roles that were there. I saw so many of the people whose lives had been completely commandeered by the responsibilities that those roles entailed, less and less balance in their lives. And even though I knew I had a greater grip on balance in my life, I still knew that it would take me away from the things that I really love to do in my spare time. So I started feeling like something else was there, but I couldn't put my finger on it. And that felt a bit helpless, so every day I chanted for months with no answer. And on this particular day in September, when I was chanting, maybe about like 10 minutes into the meditation, all of a sudden, I felt this wisdom start to pop up inside of me. And it was like this little soft voice that said, Dominic, you're meant to leave the corporate world. And you're meant to start a business of your own, helping other people break through obstacles in their life. And then all of a sudden, that subtle little voice exploded into this like electric shock. It wasn't a shock. It was just like this electrical surge in my body that from top to bottom, it felt like I was lit up, like I was connected to some power source I'd never felt before. Now, guys, you have to understand when I'm saying this, and if like you're a skeptical person, up until that point in my life, I had been spiritually homeless. I didn't believe in God, religion, faith. I actually scoffed at people who did. I never had one of these transcendent experiences in my life, and I also rolled my eyes at people who claimed that they did. I was the ultimate of skeptics. I'd never felt or experienced anything like this, but in this moment, something transcendent was happening, and it was undeniable. And I sat there for these 10 minutes with this electricity surging through my body with all of these images just flashing across a movie screen of all the different ways in which I could potentially be out in this world, helping people overcome limiting beliefs, helping people design the life of their dreams, helping people to explore these inner worlds within them. None of it was concrete or clear. It was just like these flash images, but it was inspiring. My heart cracked open. And it just felt like I was radiating this power. And then from like this top right, like outside of me, above me and to the right of me, this little thought floated across that said, yeah, but you can never make as much money doing that as what you're doing now. And then as soon as that voice came in, all of the electrical power shut down. It was like a circuit breaker. Switch had just gone off. Everything left my body. Done. And I kind of shook my head and I was like, whoa, what the hell was that? And I could still feel some of the remnants of what had just occurred. But that thought I accepted as truth. I believed it. And I was like, yeah, I could never make as much money doing that. I'm making really good money here. And very shortly after, I was just like, wow, that was a really cool fantasy. Chalked it up to like a daydream, or like having a fantasy dream at night and waking up in the morning and be like, wow, that was fun. Just an extracurricular thing. And I packed that up and months went by where nothing much changed. It was February of 2014. We're talking like 6 months later, where I was still continuing this practice every morning, doing the chanting meditations. My intentions had changed over time, but I recommitted or I reconnected back to this idea of what's next. I want to know what's next. So I sat down in this chanting meditation again. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. When all of a sudden, that electricity, that light came back full force in my body the same exact way that it had shown up that first time. And again, these images started flashing across my screen of me leaving the corporate world, me going out and hanging my own shingle, me starting to live a life of my own design, me calling my own shots, me helping other people get what they wanted. And then from the top right, outside of me, above my head, that same voice came in and it said, yeah, but you could never make as much money doing that as what you're doing now. But gentlemen, in those 6 months, my meditation and awareness practice had gotten a lot deeper and a lot sharper. So when I heard that voice, I stopped it and I said, who the fuck says? And as soon as I said that to that voice, boom, it dissolved. And the electricity continued. The circuit breaker wasn't there this time. And all of a sudden I realized, holy shit, this is real. And I recognized that that was just one limiting belief, one thought that was one of an infinite number of potential thoughts I could have had about the situation, but that was one that I accepted as true 6 months ago without even questioning it. This time I asked, who the fuck says? And I was like, well, wait a minute. If that is not true, what might be true? What are alternative stories that I could be telling? And I offered up one that said, well, what if I could make 10 times as much money doing this new thing as what I'm making right now? And in that moment, I didn't believe it. I didn't feel it fully. I couldn't see how it was possible, but I believed 5% of it. I was like, well, yeah, that could be true. Why would that be any less true than this other idea that I could never make as much money? What if it's way more true? And I just haven't explored it yet. And then it offered up all these other potential endings to the story. And I said, whoa, wait a minute. None of these are true. Like, none of these need to be the thing that defines how I feel right now. Let's just stay with this feeling. And as I stayed with that feeling, the meditation ended with that electricity in my body. And it had penetrated so deeply that I realized that a decision had already been made. I was going to leave the corporate world. It was a done deal, guys. I was going to create my own path. I was going to become an entrepreneur for the first time, something I never really believed possible. And even in that moment, didn't have the full confidence that I could pull off with discipline or willpower or, charting my own course. I didn't know I could do all that stuff, but the decision in that moment was made on a gut and soul level. And what was amazing in the days and the weeks that followed, where I started to entertain that idea of what if I could make 10 times as much money, even though money wasn't the driving force behind it. It was definitely a fear I had. When I started to entertain that idea more than, no, you can never make as much money then all of the evidence appeared that I could. All of these people who had done it before I had done it started to come up in my existence, and I studied their techniques. I listened to their stories. It was just me turning my attention to what was possible versus something that was limiting. And that was when I made the decision. And I said, I put a long roadway in front of me. I said, in 2 years, in February of 2016, I'm gone. For me, that felt amazing. Because I wasn't hating the world that I was living in. I wasn't fed up. My back wasn't against the wall. I had a great employer at Prudential Financial. I had a good thing going. And I wanted those 2 years to study, to prepare, to learn how to launch an online business, to get certifications that I felt would help me. And also it felt like this grand adventure that I got to go on that no one else knew about for about 18 of those 24 months. It was just kind of like my own little dirty secret that made life so much more exciting. All possible, guys, because I was able to see this limiting belief that for 6 months had turned off the life force of my life, had shut down the dream that I am now living. Guys, can you imagine if that one limiting belief had persisted, if I hadn't caught it, if my awareness hadn't sharpened, if I hadn't pushed back on it? I wouldn't be here talking to you right now, right? We wouldn't have the community that we have of men from around the world sharing their stories, supporting one another, building a fucking movement. One limiting belief away. That was it. And as soon as I was able to see it, I was able to remove it and replace it with something more powerful. Now, I'd like you to sit down right now and write down your list of limiting beliefs. This is a great journal exercise, guys. Write down 5 to 10 limiting beliefs that you have allowed to perpetuate in your mind and believed as true. A belief is only a thought that you keep on thinking. It's not true. You think a thought once, you keep thinking enough times, it becomes a belief, and then the beliefs run your life. It's exactly what I did. It's exactly what I'm doing in certain areas of my life I'm not even aware of yet. But we have to bring awareness to that. Otherwise, we will drift through our lives, allowing limiting beliefs to short circuit the life that you've always desired. Some of the limiting beliefs I hear from men are, man, I'm the guy who puts the ball at the 5-yard line. I can't punch it in. That's who I am. I can never win the big one. A limiting belief of, I don't have enough time. right? I never have enough time for myself, or when I have enough time, I will do this. No, you won't, because there will never be enough time until you fucking create it, right? I'm just waiting for the stars to align before I can go and invest in myself. No, you have to move the stars. Like, invest in yourself by moving those stars, prioritizing yourself, prioritizing your family, prioritizing your relationship, whatever's most important. I want you to write down a list of those 5 or 10 limiting beliefs. And then I want you to write out the consequences of continuing to allow those beliefs to perpetuate. And then I want you to write what the new story is, right? There's 3 steps here, guys. What are your limiting beliefs? What's a limiting belief, right, that you have? What are the consequences of allowing that limiting belief to perpetuate? And then number 3, what is a new story you can tell? For me, you could never make as much money doing that as going to live the life of your dreams. The consequences of that, where I got stuck for another 6 months living a boring, predictable, unfulfilling, although, financially secure existence in a job that treated me well, but then like giving up my dreams and postponing the life I desired for an indefinite period of time. And then the new narrative was, well, I can make 10 times as much. And freedom feels a hell of a lot better than making great money right now. I wrote down a whole host of different alternative endings to the story. And when those started to feel better, and when I started to give my attention to those, that's where my life changed. So do this work, guys. Sit down, re-listen to this episode, journal on this. And final reminder that if you want to join Eric Maddox, the interrogator whose interrogation techniques captured Saddam Hussein, and you want to be a part of this community of other great men, then go to the show notes, click the link, register for the mastermind. I think you can get in right now for as low as $99 a month. I'm holding that rate stable until February 12th when it increases to $149 a month. And then you can join us for Eric Maddox and for our bi-weekly calls. We'll see you in there.